Hey everybody, I'm Anne-Christine Diaz, creativity editor at Ad Age, and I'm here with Ishan Sherwood, associate creativity editor at Ad Age. And welcome to day 3 of the Future of Creativity. We've had an amazing week so far. Yesterday, we had a bunch of cool talks. We had Fernando Machado and Anselmo Ramos talking about their history of working together over many brands, Dove, Popeyes, Burger King. We also had this amazing roundtable with a bunch of the top directors in the industry. Henry Alex Rubin from Smuggler, Cal Maddock of Pretty Bird, and Kim Gehrig of Some Such. I think we had some interesting moments. First of all, Anselmo Ramos's hair. Was that the most amazing thing of the day?
I think quarantine hair has definitely been a thing among a great number of guests. It's been nice to see. Okay, so everyone else keep bringing it.
Yes, don't bother trying to cut your hair because we want to see it in its natural state. Mm-hmm. During the roundtable, I thought there were some really fascinating moments for Kim Gehrig, for example, when she was talking about Libressa's Viva La Vulva. When you watch that spot, it's such an anthem to the power of the vulva. There's so much bravado in it, but it was actually this tricky thing that involved a lot of hesitation. And so that was a surprising thing to me.
Yeah. I also love that she said they used every idea. Like everything that they made, they're like, we're gonna put all of it in. Okay. Like don't leave any of it out. So that was cool.
Yeah, every possible visual vagina metaphor that you could use, they used it. And then Cal Maddock also said something really interesting. I think diversity has been a big theme this week. And he won our Director of the Year award at the Creativity Awards, but he told everybody that he didn't want to be seen as the savior. He was pointing out that there are 40 other talents out there just like me that you don't know about. So you should go find them. So I thought that was a really important statement to make.
Yeah, it was cool. He was talking about the sort of burden of being sort of the only who is currently successful, and then sort of having to shoulder all of the responsibility for being a representative.
Yeah, he's not the only, of course. There's some fantastic Black directors.
Right, the only recognized. Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually have a story today about this database of Black directing production talent that's on our site, so everyone should go check that out. It's bid.black. It's also on adage.com. So shout out to them. But today we're going to focus on talent. And one of the big things during this pandemic period that we've been seeing is this talent issue. Where are people going to find jobs? People are losing jobs. And in the freelance world, that is an extra tough. It's an extra tough place to be as a freelancer today. So the first half of the day is going to talk about that with one of the top freelancers in the business, Kathy Hepinstall Parks. And we're also going to talk to Working Not Working, which is an awesome platform for freelance talent. And can you talk about the second half of the day? What's going to happen next?
This afternoon, starting at 3:00, we are going to be talking about creativity and diversity with a great panel: Ryan Ford, CCO at Cashmere, Christina Pyle from Time's Up, and Brianna Patrick, strategist at Goodby Silverstein and Partners. And then after that, Alex Jardine, our editor in London, is going to be talking to McCann and the client about their Pride campaign, which is going to be interesting and a lot of fun.
Cool. I'm so excited. So let's kick off the day with a fireside chat with Kathy Hepinstall. She was described to me, I've been following her for a long time, but somebody in the industry described her to me as the GOAT of writers in the freelance world.
The Serena Williams of writers. Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And so they said that she can make you cry within 5 lines, even though those 5 lines are about acne cream. So let's bring in Kathy, and we'll see Ishan later.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Kathy.
How are you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, glad to be here.
So where are you? You're based in Austin, right?
Yes, Austin is our present resting place, but we've been bouncing around the country the last 3 or 5 years.
How long have you been in Austin?
Just about a year, but before that we were in Boulder, before that we were in Portland, before that Santa Barbara, before that Carpinteria. So every liberal monobubble in the nation we have visited.
Wow. So yeah, every idyllic community in the
Every idyllic, way too expensive liberal monobubble.
Yeah. So I invited you here today because, as I said, you are one of the top freelancers in the business. And we wanted to look at the freelance world right now, especially since a lot of people are affected by what's happening in the industry, not just with the pandemic, but even now, like with all the unrest that's going on in society. But so I wanted to start out just looking back at your career. So you were once a full-time agency person, but then you have straddled the world of writing for advertising, and also you're a very accomplished novelist. You have like 8 books now?
Well, I've written 20. Some of them were crap. I've published 8.
Okay.
And I'm working on a 9th now, right now.
Wow. And isn't your latest one being made into a movie?
That was the one before, number 8, the Book of Polly. And yes, Amazon is developing that into a movie, but with everything else in COVID, things are on hold, and I hear different news each week about whether and when production is going to go forward. So of course that's on everyone's mind, but I'm just happy to have that in development, and we'll hope that it goes somewhere.
Okay, cool. I look forward to seeing it, hopefully.
Yeah, we would too. If you have an Amazon Prime account and the stars align, you will.
Yeah. So take us through your career a little bit. How did you make that how long have you been freelancing now, and how did you finally make that transition to full-time freelancing?
Wow. Well, I have been freelancing for many years now, but I think what people don't really know is that I have also been full-time interspersed into that. It sort of depends. I was at Shoutouts. I was at Team One for a while. Early on in my career, I was at DDB and also Stein Robert Helm, which is now defunct, which was a great little agency at the time. And I've been at Wieden and Kennedy so long off and on, and that Dan Wieden, the joke is that he actually thought I was a full-time staff member, although I never have been there. So I'm not like people call me a professional freelancer. I don't think that's entirely true. I really love the setting of a lot of people in a place. And again, that's been upended by recent events, but I love the energy and spirit of a place. So in fact, I've had conversations recently somewhere about joining on full-time again. So it's not a lifestyle I'm married to, and I've gotten pretty fast at writing in general, writing advertising and writing novels. So it used to be I had to take a time off and just do novel writing, just go to my cave and just write. But now I'm able to do both at the same time, and so I have a little bit more bandwidth. So I don't know if that's probably a really rambly way to answer your question, but I enjoy both aspects. I enjoy the aspects of full-time, and I enjoy the aspects of freelance. But for the most part, it's been freelance.
Okay. I just wanted to remind the audience out there, I'm Anne-Christine Diaz, creativity editor at Ad Age. I'm here with veteran freelancer, novelist, Kathy Hepinstall Parks. And I wanted to also thank our presenting sponsor for Verizon Media and our supporting sponsors, the Ad Council, the Female Quotient, the It Gets Better Project, and the Miami Ad School. So I wanted to remind the audience out there who's checking in on social to throw in any questions, and we can ask Kathy that here. So, so yeah, you talk about, you mentioned like doing both at the same time. I want to get into the craft a little bit.
Sure.
So you write novels and you also write ad copy. So
sure.
How do you make those worlds exist? Is it a different sort of process in terms of writing words for advertising versus long form novels?
Well, in some ways, writing copy is more of an immediate gratification. And I enjoy that, and I enjoy solving problems, and I use a slightly different side of the brain, I suppose. But I've always told people that writing a good novel is writing a good series of one sentence headlines that sell the next sentence. So I don't see them as very far apart. You're serving somebody, you're serving yourself, but you're serving someone outside yourself. And you're trying to write in that intersection where what you want to write intersects with what people want to read, whether it's the people that have employed you, or an agent that's going to sell your work, or a publisher that's going to publish it.
So are there skills, can you talk about the skills that do translate from novel writing to advertising and the ones that don't?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Well, I think a lot of part of the problem is that, to me, it's a problem, is that social media in its in service of itself has managed to convince every human being that they are a brand. And in a sense, you have to be a brand in order to work or to sell, but that's not the first thing you need to be. The first thing you need to be is a real person. And I think giving people these micro platforms have both helped careers and hurt careers. So I don't think, I feel like the internet in general is a rabbit hole that distracts you from both arts. You can use it to help you and to promote yourself and to do research and to give examples of good writing, but both of them, their overuse and the perspective that begins to tilt when you overuse them hurt both industries, you know, publishing, if you're a writer, a professional writer, or if you're in advertising. And I also consider everything just writing, because everything's for an audience. And I've had bigger audiences for some of my commercials than I had for some of my novels. So that's not so much bragging about how many people watch my commercials, but you know, I'm not J.K. Rowling either. So, but what works is honing the craft. I mean, the craft of writing, people tend to dismiss writing, but writing is still at the base and the heart of everything, writing and images. So to me, really understanding writing the way I've studied comedians, and they understand the rhythm of a joke. They've deconstructed it. They understand the DNA of it, and they understand the interaction of themselves and an audience. Same holds true for a writer or an art director. The same holds true for a novelist. There's a musicality in words. There is a way to turn off people, the reader, with words. For example, I'll give you, this isn't a word, it's about punctuation, but a semicolon is kind of the uninvited guest to any party. It's correct, but it slows the reader's eye down. And so when you interrupt rhythm, you interrupt a reader's enjoyment, and you interrupt a reader's journey. So that's true of novel writing. That's true of ad copy.
Wow. I just wanted to give some shout outs to people in the audience. We have Arik from Israel, Molly from New York City, Ian from California, Pablo from Ireland, Edward from Singapore, I know, Rehan from Bangladesh, Catalina from Romania, and Gonzalo from Bolivia. You have a completely global audience today.
Love it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I really appreciate that.
And we have a question from Sarah on LinkedIn. What tips would you give corporate or agency copywriters to break into the freelance world?
Oh, that's a great question, and thank you for it. So if I'm assuming correctly that you've been full-time at an agency or a corporation and you'd like to break into the freelance world, you can start out by putting out threads and tendrils even as you are still at your job, you know, and you know, it's, of course, people do that. I would also, one thing that I think of freelance in general, that don't just, you know, hit the usual suspects. For a long time, you could have a very good career, and some people still can, just working for agencies. But there are all kinds of people in need of designs and writing. So let me just stick with writing, because I actually know what I'm talking about with that. There was a company I worked for for about a year in Austin named Indeed.com, and they're the company, ironically, that gets people jobs. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that they also have one of the best ad departments, internal ad agencies that I've ever met. So if you take a place like that and then you multiply it by all the corporations in your area, and you start really thinking, what do I do? I write. Okay, well, that's not just an ad. That is many, many things. That's radio, that's podcasts, that's novels, that's scripts. And in terms of advertising, there are companies that just need people to write their emails and make them feel human. So I would start out by looking at your opportunities while you still have a job, and make your portfolio really show off what you do. If you're a writer, what is it that someone would read your writing and say, I've got to hire that person?
Cool, thanks. I want you were talking about writing being just more than a line of copy. It's everything. I want to bring up a recent ad that you did, which is pretty relevant to today, the Uber spot. You worked on the Uber spot with Wyden and Kennedy, right?
Yes, I did.
Can we pull that up?
Can I?
Oh, no, not you, Max.
It's like, no.
Our magician, Max, in the background.
I can act it out.
Okay. Well, basically, while we're calling it up, it was a spot where in the middle of the pandemic, everyone was putting out these montagey, feel-good spots. But this one from Uber came out saying, "Thank you for not riding with us." I don't know if I botched your copy. So can you tell us about that? What was, it was a lot of imagery in that spot, but what was the writing in that?
There was very little writing in that, honestly. And from what I remember, there was really a group effort between myself and people at Wyden and Kennedy, but also the people on the marketing department of Uber, who are very nice people. It was really more, what do you do when everybody's using the same stock footage on the web, and to an embarrassment extent? Like you could see the same stock for the same kid throwing a baseball up in the air for one brand as you can for another. How can you avoid that? And yet at the same time, there's no way you can shoot anything, especially at the beginning of COVID. So we put out the call to Pretty Bird and their people, and we basically used people that were home and kind of trapped anyway, directors, photographers, to supply footage from all over the country and different places in the world. And then we cut that together, and it was just a very fast operation that took everybody working, as they say in the COVID time of freelance, there's not a lot of cutoff between day and night and dinner time and bedtime and all those things. So we were working really hard around the clock.
So what was your role in that? Was it writing? Was it creative directing? Because you're a freelance creative director as well, right?
Sometimes I work with, it depends. Like I've been in the business for a while, and I worked with Colleen DeCourcy, Susan Hoffman, and then my direct partner was Sarah Phillips, who's a brilliant art director at Wyden. And sometimes I go in and I work with people higher up at an agency, and sometimes I help with strategy, and sometimes I help with all around, like what is, especially if somebody needs new branding, what is the sea change we need. In this case, it was really one of the better experiences in my freelance life, and this was just before COVID hit. I was on site at Wyden and Kennedy, then COVID hit, and I came back to Austin, and I was working for home on the spot. But it was really just a group effort. So there was actually very little copy there, and the copy needed to stay out of the way. And that would be the advice I would also give writers. If you need to stay out of the way, you need to stay out of the way. It didn't need, and I argued against having copy all the way through. It didn't need some beautiful bullshit, sorry for my language, coming from Uber during a time where everybody is terrified and everybody is uncertain. They don't need a corporation to wax poetic about their situation. So I think the spot was successful in that way. I think it was successful in a way that a rideshare company is asking people to stay home. That's irony at its finest.
Yeah, and I feel like that lack of copy throughout made the final line have all that much more impact? I don't know.
No, I think I hope it did. You're really between a rock and a hard place when you're writing for a brand during COVID, especially a controversial brand, because there's just very little they can say. And so we got through that. I'm a big fan of both Uber and Wyden. Hopefully they'll get through the rest of this, and we all will.
And so we have a bunch of questions from people.
Am I supposed to be reading these, or?
Oh no, I'll read them out.
Oh, good, because I can't multitask. It's not in me.
Carl on LinkedIn is asking, how does your process change when using marketing skills to promote your novels versus when you have a brief?
Well, that's another magnificent question. And I gotta just admit to you that I really believe that the thing that I bring to advertising, or I try to bring to writing in general, is reality. And the reality is it didn't mix very well. I'm off Facebook, I'm off Instagram, I'm off Twitter. And it hurt me as a writer. And it probably also hurt me as a freelancer, because you, at the very least, want to remind people you're out there. But I was very uncomfortable in the end with the fact that my friends and my fans seemed to merge together, and I didn't want that dynamic. It's not a dynamic I have in real life. That's not a dynamic I want online. But that said, when you publish a novel, you do have strangely enough, when you work on a commercial, you don't have to go out and promote that commercial to Uber or to Lynx or to Apple. You don't have that responsibility. But if you do publish a novel, you have a responsibility to the editors that not only believed in you, but put down money on you, and also the agent that sold you, to try to get it out there. So to be honest, that's something that I still struggle with very hard, is how to promote my own work. I'm trying to think of something that I felt really helped. Weirdly enough, within advertising, there's a lot of little rules and a little things that only like insiders would know. And in publishing, there's certain things you can do that are very specific. One of them I just found out about 6 months ago is that you could ask your publishers to run a special on your book on Amazon and promote it. And so you can do those things. I also talk to book groups. I really, I loved doing that. I love talking to book groups. So there are certain aspects in which I was very willing to do, and other things that just felt creepy to me. So I think it depends on the writer. And I think a lot of writers are kind of introverted people, and they struggle with promoting themselves. Some are better than others.
Wow. That's awesome for all those promising writers out there.
All those promising writers, I just want to tell you guys, I got my first novel accepted by a major agent in New York from a blind query. And I didn't know anybody. Nobody recommended me to this person. And how did I do that? I started using advertising concepts, looking at a query letter and putting myself in the position of an agent. So good agents get hundreds, maybe thousands of queries a week. How do you craft a query letter that will actually, to begin with, get their attention? So I really studied the art of writing query letters, and studying is so important, and research and being humble to the process is so important, whether you're writing or you're in advertising. So the first query letter I sent out, I got a 10% response rate. After I reworked it, studied it, thought about what does an agent as a human need? Where's that intersection between what I want to sell and what he wants to buy? I sent out the other one, and I got 3 times the amount of response, and he was one of the responses. So one thing I want to tell the writers, people always talk about it's who you know, it's the connections. Sometimes it's true and sometimes it isn't.
Wow, but that's an example of how your skills in advertising directly
absolutely
to your career as a novelist. Another question. So what kinds of work are difficult to do as a freelancer? In other words, what kinds of gigs do you avoid? And that's from Jonathan on Facebook.
Hey, Jonathan. Well, This is the time when I invite blowback, but I'll just be honest, there's certain accounts I won't work on. And then there are other accounts that are just as evil that I do work on. Everybody draws a line in the sand. I'll give you some examples. I won't work on the Army. I won't work on SeaWorld, and I won't work on Facebook. There's other things. I worked on McDonald's. So, you know, McDonald's is not known as a particularly green brand. So I'm telling you guys this honestly. This is what comes to my mind. There are just certain things in my own life that I just can't, I have to draw the line. There are things that I do that somebody else wouldn't do. And I respect that.
So that more comes out of your own values versus the process being difficult.
Absolutely. And of course, it's hypocritical. I have been on, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I've been on Facebook. I've promoted myself on Facebook. Way long ago, I went to SeaWorld. You know, it's nothing is really black and white. There's a lot of gray areas, and this is a time in our history, especially our technological and cultural history, where gray areas are not only not respected, but they're anathema. So it's a gray area for me. Some things that I will work on and find difficult, but there's some things that I absolutely won't work on. I won't work on anything that I think is harmful to animals. And once again, here comes the hypocrisy. I have worked on McDonald's before. Mm-hmm. It's just your own choice. And in the most of the time, I keep that choice private for this very reason, because I don't want to open up a giant free-for-all about what you should or should not work on. I think it's everybody's individual conscience. And some people work on everything. I understand.
More questions, tons of questions today.
They can always, by the way, write me if you want to message me on LinkedIn, my last remaining social platform. I will answer every one of your messages. Please don't be mean. I have low blood sugar.
So Edward on LinkedIn, he's asking, do you have any advice for freelancers established and just starting out to sustain or find jobs, especially in these times?
Yeah, for sure. Let me think about that. Again, go off the beaten path. There's a lot of corporations, and there's a lot of small agencies. There's a lot of retail agencies. There's a lot of entities that would love to find somebody with your values, and they just don't, they're not in the system, right? So it may not be the best work you've ever done if you do a direct piece, or you do some kind of like retail radio, or if you work directly for a client, but just beat the bushes a little. If you are on social media, they have groups on social media about jobs that are opening, and some of them are rather obscure, but some of them are interesting. Like right here in Austin, there's an opening for a creative director on Yeti. So beat the bushes. I mean, this is a question, by the way, and I appreciate you asking it. This is a question that I could kind of answer in 30 minutes, and I'm trying to be conscious of time right now. But there are things that you can do to increase your visibility. Not the usual suspects, all social media platforms, but other things. Keeping up with the people that you've had contact with at these places.
How do you maintain those relationships? Or is it about updating your portfolio? Another question from Twitch. Wow, we have a Twitch viewer. After some time doing this, how do you sell yourself? How do you update your portfolio? And is it necessary to update?
Yeah, I think it's necessary to keep updated. I'm the worst. If you go to my portfolio, you'd be like, are you serious? But I am the worst at this. But yes, how things look matters. And I'm not very proficient on things like building portfolios. I went to a girl who runs something called Pimp My Portfolio for $400. She made my portfolio look good. So updating it is important, but you don't have to update it necessarily with all produced work. I still have some spec on my portfolio. Well, let me think about that. Yeah, I think I have 1 or 2 spec spots after all these years. And the benefit of having a spec spot is that you have no client. You can show off your skills, whatever it is, conceptual, writing, design skills. And nobody has seen that ad before. It's fresh in their mind because it's never run. Now, I'm not saying lie about it. You can put in a little description, whatever. You can put that in the description. You can describe it any way you want. I think that it's a really good time if you kind of have time on your hands to write people that you know in the industry, to ask for advice, and to work on your portfolio. Make it look good and try to make it look current. I did manage to put the Uber spot on it, and I just want to show that I can do current work, and and hopefully that means something.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We're out of time, but we appreciate you sharing this valuable information for a bunch of people who really need it right now, I think.
I wish you all great luck. I do.
Yeah, and remember, everyone can reach out to you on LinkedIn,
you guys
right?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn, just on messages. Don't post something.
Okay.
For God's sake.
Well, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. And next up, we have our associate publisher, Heidi Waldusky, with one of our sponsors, the It Gets Better project.
Thanks, Anne. That was a great conversation. A lot of honest and good and helpful information from Kathy. So that was absolutely fantastic. As Anne said, I'm Heidi Wildusky. I'm the associate publisher of Ad Age. Thank you to everyone for tuning into our Future of Creativity event. Right now, you're joining me for a conversation we're calling Beyond the Rainbow. Reaching the LGBTQ plus community starts from within. LGBTQ plus nonprofits need the support of their corporate partners, but the most powerful ideas need more than a rainbow flag. To kind of dive into this, we've got the It Gets Better project. We have their executive director, Brian Winke, who's going to help explain why queer talent is an imperative both in front of and behind the camera, and how brands can work to stay relevant with the LGBTQ plus community as Pride 2020 pivots to digital. Brian, I see, there you are. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really amazing to have you here.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be here. My pleasure. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm totally loaded up on caffeine, but I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and get into this conversation, because Pride obviously looks a lot different this year, but we have a lot of good information to cover. You guys are such a leader in this space. But to help ground our audience, can you just give us a little bit of an overview of the It Gets Better project and the work you're doing in this space?
Sure. Well, we are a nonprofit, and we have a mission to uplift, empower, and connect LGBTQ plus youth around the globe, and we do that through three primary strategies. Our core work is around storytelling and validating the queer experience through the eyes of other members of the LGBTQ plus community who have the luxury of hindsight and can impart their wisdom to younger generations who might be having a rough go of it, and showing that there is joy in the process of self-affirmation. The second approach that we have is education. We take these stories into classrooms around the country. And our third strategy is global. We were born a global organization on social media. We now have affiliates in 17 countries across 4 continents, managing storytelling initiatives in 6 major languages. That is, the goal here is just to show queer kids that there is joy to be found in your queerness. That's what we do.
That is a great message and mission. So obviously storytelling is at the core of what you do, as you've said, but obviously it's not just, we've heard a lot of, as this has been happening, you have to find the right voices. You have to have the authentic voices to help craft these stories. But you've talked a lot about, you just can't have it behind the camera, you need it in front of the camera too, and vice versa. Can you talk a little bit about how that storytelling, how it's really important for both of those things to come together when you're telling these stories?
Yeah, well, I mean, for our work, a lot of our stories, a lot of our inspiring stories are born out of sometimes traumatic experiences. And when you're in front of the camera and you're talking about these very raw feelings, it's tough, and it's harder than people realize. And if you are trying to share your experience and you're in a room filled with people that cannot understand or empathize with what you're going through, it makes it that much more difficult to talk about in a very raw way. For example, if we are trying to capture the experience of a Black trans woman and she's in front of the camera and the only people that she sees behind the camera are a bunch of white, cis, heterosexual men, it's going to compromise the safety of the space and ultimately the authenticity that woman can bring to the table by sharing her story.
So how easy is it to find the people to help you tell these stories right now? I would think people would be clamoring to do this work, or you would just have a million and people at your disposal. But what is that process like for you guys?
Well, we have told a lot of stories. We're 70,000 strong, and we're still going. But when we started the project 10 years ago, social media was in a very different place. YouTube was a place where you saw cat videos, and now it has really evolved into a multifunctional platform that we leverage for social good. It's really interesting in this world of influencer and celebrity. A lot of people discount their own personal experiences, and that's really sad to me. So, it does take a little more kind of nudging to get people to recognize the power of their own experience when they are sharing it in a world that's filled with celebrity and influencer content, right? And so our goal has always been to really sit down. We love grassroots storytelling, and frankly, I love influencers, I love celebrities, but I am much more empowered and inspired by the everyday people who are finding ways to find joy in the daily slog of life, right? And so we do have power in our own stories, and it's about convincing people that they matter and that their personal stories have value as well.
I know, because they really do. So how are you bringing that to brands, right? Because obviously brands want to align with you, but they want to do this right. So where do you start? I know that the title of this conversation is essentially we need more than a rainbow flag. It's also beyond pride. You talk a lot about Pride 365. So how do you start counseling brands? How are you collaborating with them to get them to really bring this through?
Sure. And it's difficult because when a for-profit brand comes to us wanting to partner around a campaign, there's no secret. I know that there are other objectives to achieve. I know that this brand wants to do well for the community, they want to give back, but they also have a bottom line to address, and they have a lot of people that they probably have to prove the worthiness of this campaign. And so one of the things that we encourage people to start with is just, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to achieve? And how are you measuring that? And then we can start talking about how to overlay purpose on top of it, because nonprofits, we know what we're here to do. We know what we need to achieve. And the more transparent our partners are with us about what they need to achieve, the easier it is for us to brainstorm ways that we can meld the two objectives.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's, I know you're essentially advocating for more transparency in that process. Do you think it's because, brands are like, well, if it's purpose driven, it shouldn't be performance driven, right? But as you said, we all have the same goals. So are you just advocating for let's just put it all on the table and be transparent about what we're doing so we can be more effective together?
Absolutely. We have organizations that have come to us, and they lead with, we just want to help you, right? We want to support your organization. We love what you do. We're inspired by it. But as the conversations progress and we get closer to pressing go on a campaign, it becomes clear that there are other objectives in mind. And if you can get those out up front, then it's much easier to figure out how to authentically make them work for the entire campaign. And so it's harder when you get towards the end of planning to start shoehorning in strategies to address things. I'm so sorry right here. I have two cats that are fighting. So I apologize if you hear that.
I didn't even notice. I was like, oh, it's a soundtrack of life.
Oh yeah. I'm so sorry. They're done.
They had a lot of feelings about what you were saying. I agree with them.
Yeah. Perfect timing. They never do this. So yeah, it is important to be transparent. And I know a lot of brands are sensitive to say that, oh, we have a bottom line, we have stakeholders to appease. But again, I've been at this for 20 years. I know what you have to do. And I appreciate that you're informing me that you want to do good for our organization, and you will. And so we're going to help you do that. But please just tell us what you need to achieve, because it's a lot easier to be upfront. I mean, we're working with an organization right now that came to us and said, look, we have a very conservative organization. But we have a small cohort of people that are really interested in pushing this agenda. So let's figure out a way to do it with a soft touch, and we start here this year, and then maybe we go a little more aggressive next year. And we're totally okay with that. And I appreciate that. We're all in different places. Organizations are all in different places when it comes to how they support the LGBT plus community. And we want to honor that.
Yeah, I feel like there's that's excellent, transparent, and great and honest advice. Thank you for that. So as Pride 2020 kind of gets underway, I know there was a lot of like, I don't know, we should do it. I mean, obviously there's a lot of challenges our society is facing, a lot of happening with the civil unrest, and a lot of brands didn't feel like they could do both necessarily at the same time. But do you have any advice for brands who aren't quite sure or felt that they should pull back this year?
Well, my first advice is don't do it. Like if you had already planned on doing something, I recognize life throws us curveballs and priorities shift, and that's totally okay. But one thing that we have been talking about, even before COVID, and before the what's happening right now with the Black community, which is so incredibly important. We don't want to diminish that at all. If anything, we want to support it and lean into it. But for the queer community, we're queer 12 months out of the year. There are plenty of other opportunities to show your support for LGBTQ plus people, especially from our perspective when we're working with young people. There's back to school, there's LGBT History Month, National Coming Out Day. Queer people celebrate the holidays too, and Valentine's Day. And there's a lot of ways that brands can creatively plug into the community that don't have to be based solely on Pride Month.
That is an excellent observation. Like 12 months in the year, guys. We can do this anytime. Well, thank you so much for that, Brian. I'm sad our time is over because I feel like I could just talk to you forever. Now, where can people go to find out more about working with the It Gets Better project and what you guys have coming up?
Well, itgetsbetter.org is our website. That's where you can get a lot of information. And next week we have a 3-day live stream event, June 24th through the 26th. It'll be on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's our It Gets Better, a digital pride experience. So if you'd like to see us in action, visit us next week or go ahead and visit our website at itgetsbetter.org.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being part of our event today. Go scold those cats. They were great. I bet they're adorable. All right, for the rest of you watching, we're going to throw it back to Anne Christine Diaz, our creativity editor. Thanks for joining us for this conversation.
Thanks, Heidi and Brian. That was very enlightening and very important to talk about. So we appreciate you coming on board to sharing a little bit about what you guys are doing right now. But now we're going to continue the freelancing conversation. I think we kicked it off really well with Kathy Hepinstall, but now we're going to bring in Justin Genak, who's the co-founder of Working Not Working. Can we pull Justin in? Hey.
Hey, Anne, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I feel like it's really important to talk about the freelance world right now. So you guys, so you and Adam started Adam Tompkins, your co-founder. You started the platform 8 years ago now? Yeah. 2012.
2012.
Yeah, and now you've become so robust. You have 80,000 creatives in the Working Not Working community, and in 50 creative disciplines, 130 countries. New York, LA, London, San Francisco, Chicago, Portland are your top 6 markets.
Yep.
And creatives across the board, from advertising to tech, design, photography, and the majority, or 58%, is freelance, right?
Yes.
So you have such a robust community. You have the platform itself, plus you also hold events, and you have a fabulous publication, which I don't have enough time to read all the time, but I need to. But since you have such a vibrant community, you have been able to pull statistics or see what's happening right now. And as we've been going through the pandemic, I wanted to talk to you about, what the freelance community is going through right now, and what are their concerns. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, when this all happened, we immediately heard from our community this anxiety about the unknown. You know, we had agencies losing business. You know, everyone was going through at the same time, and then the trickle down effect is freelancers weren't getting hired. There was pauses on those budgets, and and typically freelancers. One of the things you need to be a successful freelancer is the stomach to handle those downturns, because you go weeks without getting any work. And so you're accustomed to that, but this is a little bit different, and it's a little bit, the calls are getting a little quieter, and the distance between them is longer. And so for us, it was really trying to support the community in this time of uncertainty. So we were doing events. We do a talking, not talking support group for creatives, and just talking about what we're going through. And I think one of the hardest things is people dealing with expectations. We all have expectations about how our careers are going to go or how our business is going to go. And this just totally flipped it on its head, and coming to terms with that. And then saying, once the initial, oh shit, first few weeks happen, what do I do now? And how do I best set myself up for whenever this turns back on? And so we've been trying to help the community find resources for improving their portfolios, to talking to other creatives, and really getting that help and the camaraderie of that we're all going through this together. And so how do we do that and support each other while also trying to find work, the work that is out there?
Cool. I just want to reintroduce us. I'm Anne-Christine Diaz, creativity editor at Ad Age. I'm here with Justin Genack, who's the co-founder of Working Not Working. So all you freelancers out there who have questions for Justin, please share in our social channels, and I'll try to bring those up when we talk. So you've been talking to your community, and are there any tips that you can give freelancers these days in terms of how to keep their morale up and then keep their careers going at this time?
Well, I think it's important to remember that your career isn't this week. Your career is the coming months and years. And so while it may be hard right now, you can really set yourself up for the future and when things turn back on. So I think one of the biggest things is reassessing your skills. What can you do, and how can you apply those skills now? And we see that across the board with companies doing that. You have LVMH making hand sanitizer, and Apple was making protective masks, and companies are adapting what they can do to new forms and figuring out other ways to help the world. So it's really just doing an inventory of what you can do, and then also what you want to do. I don't think there's a lot of times in our career where we're provided the opportunity to really pause and think about, is this what I want to be doing? Do I want to be going through do I really want a full-time job, or do I want to be doing this, or would I rather be working on personal projects or starting my own business? And really thinking about what's important to you, and then how to adapt and use those skills. I think also, there's a lot of anxiety, and it's easy to just go and keep hitting refresh on your inbox and on your LinkedIn and be like, all right, where's the jobs? And the thing that we found helps is just getting out of your own head and being in service to others. So we started a platform called The United, where we're connecting, our team is thoughtfully connecting creatives to other creatives for 30-minute conversations, whether it's about portfolio reviews and feedback, career guidance, and just having a connection. And so I've signed up, and I've done a bunch of conversations, and just being in service of others and helping others just gets you out of your own kind of rabbit hole of existential dread. And so it's really just trying to be there for others. And at the same time, you're building your network, you're building your community. So when things turn around, you can go and then, have people to lean on to help you find that work.
Well, in terms of being in service to others, you had mentioned something before about approaching people, instead of, do you have any work? Like what can people say to people who they might want a job from down the line?
Yeah. There has been this anxiety of okay, is it too soon to ask for work? And it's not. But I think though it's how you approach it, because the recruiters that you reach out to and the companies you reach out to are people too, and they're going through it. And it's about asking, what do you need help with? And here are all the ways that I can help. And it may be the ways that you've traditionally helped agencies in your career, or it may be other things that you're willing to do because you want to help out and you want to build a relationship. And it's not always the cherry brief and the dream project, but helping someone through this and being really great to work with and collaborate with they're going to remember that. So I think it's really about, hey, how can I help you? And do you need any help? And here are all the ways that I can help. So just let me know. And if you need something else other than this, I know some people, and I'm happy to introduce you.
Cool. I just wanted to give some shout outs to our audience out there. Kevin from Panama, Valentine.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, Valentine from Toronto, Nairn from Pakistan, Natalie from Ecuador, Mark from Colorado, Rafa from Texas. Thanks for coming back, Rafa. I know you were there yesterday. Jane from Connecticut and Tayo from Nigeria. Thanks,
Wow.
guys.
Well, and that's so nice to hear, because I think the best thing that's going to happen out of this, there used to be this kind of like very stringent mindset that I need to hire someone on site. And we know that's not the case anymore. So now companies are going to have access to such a broader, more robust talent pool around the world and can tap into people. So these people in Nigeria, the people in Panama, the people in Toledo can get hired from these agencies and these companies that maybe wouldn't have considered them before. And it's going to make the work better. And also those companies that are in secondary markets that had a hard time recruiting talent can now tap into that talent as well. So it's hopefully is going to help everyone, up their game and do better work.
Mm-hmm. So you were talking about being of service. What other tips do you have for people right now?
I think it's be patient. We did a recruiter roundtable last month with Lauren Ranke from Wyden, recruiter from Wyden, and Chloe Harlig from Squarespace. And they're like, yeah, we're getting hit up like 100 times more than we used to. And they have, sometimes they have less work than they did. So be patient. If someone doesn't get back to you, don't take it personally. And really just it's about the long game and forging these relationships in the long term. So and then my last one is like self-initiated work is as important as ever. Like I made an entire career on personal projects, and I got hired. Every single person that hired me told me they hired me because I sold New York City garbage. And so I think now is the time to experiment and play and follow your curiosity. Lauren said that she thought books portfolios were getting a bit safe before COVID, and is hoping for a portfolio revolution to come out of this. So I think you can. The idea of perfectionism is dropping. The professionalism is dropping. We're all in our homes. I'm wearing basketball shorts right now. Like everything is getting more relaxed. And so I think you could say, hey, I was bored in COVID, and this is some stuff I experimented with, and it might be completely different. It might be painting. It might be animation. But just go out there and play, and it might lead to something that then helps you get more work in the future.
For those of you not familiar with what Justin just referenced, his selling garbage, he's actually an artist too. And so he packages garbage in boxes and sells it. And it actually was part of it's been going on forever, but it recently was part of a Squarespace campaign.
Yeah, that was great. With Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah. That's like the highlight of your career, the Oscar the Grouch part.
You're not kidding. It was amazing. Yeah.
But speaking of the self-initiated work, that is an interesting thing that you bring up, because so like through the course of the pandemic, we've at Ad Age and Creativity, I feel like we've been on overdrive writing about the different campaigns and work that's come out. But at the same time, it feels like creatives have just been producing, almost overproducing with the self-initiated ideas, like some of it better than actually the brand work, So like that's testament to the fact that can make you stand out. Like all those parodies about pandemic work, those are like younger creatives or just outside creatives, just like looking in and making a comment.
Well, the work should be better than the client work. You have no clients. And you have no restrictions on you. And the thing is, like, the internet is magic. You can come up with an idea on Friday, build a WordPress over the weekend or a Squarespace site, and then launch it on Monday and have it be on Ad Age on Wednesday. Yeah. And so, we can go and do this and have an impact. And I think also the press, and you can maybe agree or disagree with this, is desperate for good stories right now. So I think this is really the time to go and put stuff out into the world. And the thing that we do as creative people, whether it's storytelling or providing a little bit of joy, is so necessary right now to everything that's going on in the world. So I think it's a good time to just do some stuff that matters to you.
Yeah. Yeah. For a while, we were seeing a sea of sameness. And so any of those projects that broke the mold or made comment on what was going on, they stand out automatically. And if they're going to stand out to us, they're going to stand out to brands, agencies as well.
When I think as creatives, it's our ability to connect with other people on a human level. And now we have one shared experience with every person in the world. And that's such an advantage. And how do we go and really connect with people about the thing that we're going through together?
Yeah. So I wanted to move on to something else, but I have a question from Jen. Can you talk about spec work or projects for long-term gigs? There seems to be a lot more fishing for unpaid work.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, if people are trying to hire you and want you to do work for free, can I swear on this? Tell them to fuck off. Like, you should not be doing work for now. If it's something you care about, if it's a pro bono cause, or if it's your local restaurant or bar, you want to help them stay in business, and you're offering your services to them, that's a different thing. But companies coming to you asking for free work is absurd, and it's exploitive, and you should not do it.
So, yeah, so the pandemic continues, but just as it felt like things are opening up a little bit, we get hit with something a lot bigger. It feels, all the social, the racial unrest and all the iniquities are just, flying in our faces right now. It's a reckoning, basically, with in terms of equality in the industry. Earlier this week, for example, Jeff Edwards brought up in his talk, one of the founders of Saturday Morning, for example, like companies like J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot, they've made
That's amazing.
Very public commitments to increasing the diversity, and he's stood by that. Whereas so every year you guys do a survey, right, about the companies that creatives most want to work for, the ones that freelancers will give up their freedom for.
Right.
And what I found is interesting this year was in the top 5, only one was an agency. The rest were brands. And from talking to other people about everything that's going on, what I've heard from Black professionals in the industry is that the agencies are notoriously not welcome in terms of to diverse talent compared to tech entertainment. Is that, I don't know if you've actually dug that deeply down into your community yet, but can you share any stats about what's been going on in the freelance world? I know you guys conducted a survey, or you started one.
Yeah, we started one last week, and so it's only the first 100 or so responses so far. But this is something that's been going on for a long time, and the fact that that conversation on Monday with Saturday Morning was incredible, and I'm friends with Kwame and Keith, and the fact this is the same conversation that was happening 5 years ago when they started this, and this has been going on, and it's about time. And the fact it's shameful that it's taken this long to finally come to a head. So we need to do more. Me personally, and as a company, we need to do more. But it's really about we need to do finally what's right. So we did this survey and just wanted to ask people, have you experienced racism in your current workplace? And 38% says they haven't experienced or witnessed it. 34% says they've witnessed it. And 16% says they've experienced it firsthand. And then we said, have you experienced racism in your past workplace or workplaces? 50% says they've witnessed it. 23% they've experienced it firsthand, and 21% said they hadn't experienced or witnessed it. And then we said, how many, a lot of these people who answered were freelancers, but does your current company have diversity inclusion management team or D&I training and support for the staff? 40% said no, and only 21% said yes, and the rest were freelance. But this is it's for me very frustrating because we have been, as an industry, comfortable, and we keep making comfortable hires, and we keep hiring people from the same schools with the same background, with the same portfolios packaged the same way. So you can go and we know everyone's busy. And so when you're busy, and if you're not putting an effort in, you're just going to go, yeah, that person, sure, they look like they can do it. But you're not really mining for great talent. And I think it's really important. It's almost like for any sports fan out there, when you have prospects and you go and do a draft, you're drafting for highest floor or highest ceiling. And a lot of times people will draft for highest floor because it's the less risky pick, but you're not drafting for highest ceiling. And I think for the creative industry, we need to go and bring talent in that you see a nugget of opportunity there and a nugget of creativity there, and you need to nurture and grow talent, which you should be doing already, but advertising is not doing a good enough job of doing that. And so when you bring people in, you really have to provide opportunities for them to succeed. And Keith Cartwright said that the other day, is as a Black creative in the industry, there's no opportunities to fail. And being a creative, the whole process is built on failure until you get to the right idea. But you don't have that flexibility when you're a Black creative because you have to be perfect, or else people are going to write it off as see, look, justifying why not to hire diverse creatives. And that's bullshit.
Yeah, that's so what are you guys doing right now in terms of, helping to promote diverse talents, like on your platform? Do you have a lot of conversations about it? Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. Everyone's been having conversations about it,
Yeah.
but we need to take faster action. So for me, we're trying to figure out in the next like 2 weeks, what can we do on the platform to highlight and feature Black creatives and creatives of color more prominently. And so we're trying to figure that out. We're also listening to our community, having these conversations. And then holistically, this is an opportunity to think about, how do we reassess and change everything that we're doing? Is it the language on the platform? Is it the GIFs that we use? Is it the voice of, like this started with Adam and I doing everything besides design and development for the first 3 years. I don't want this to feel like a brand that was written by my 40th birthday was 2 days ago, 2 40-year-old white dudes, because that's not representative of the creative industry. And so I think our team has been doing a great job over the past few years of really growing the talent base beyond the 300 people in advertising that Adam and I knew when we started this, to a community of people in 130 countries. So we do have a diverse community, but can we do more? For sure. And are we looking to do more and provide space for those voices, to pass the mic to those voices, and really highlight more diverse talent? Yes. And we do that. And I think our talent team does that whenever we do placements and help people out. They are putting forward diverse candidates. So the opportunity is there, and we need to step up to it and help our customers and help our clients also level up their game as well.
So we're talking about this from the talent side, but what have you observed from the recruiter side, in terms of diversity? Like, what issues have come to light?
Well, I think it's the same thing we've been talking about. It's like they're having a mandate to hire more diverse talent, but it's not really happening as fast. Jeff said that the other day on Monday in the conversation, like, D&I, is it really making a difference? Maybe not. If you're bringing people in the door, but then they don't feel comfortable and don't feel supported, then you're not going to be able to retain them. If you're not putting people of color and women of color in senior leadership positions, they don't see their opportunities for growth within the company. And so that really needs to happen. Also, the recruiters are way overworked. How do you expect the recruiters to go and find talent from maybe not the portfolio schools that they're used to, and going and searching people's tweets for great writing, or searching their TikToks for creativity? How do you expect them to do that when they're working 80-hour weeks already, putting out fires nonstop because they're short-staffed and they don't have the support they need? So you really have to go and provide space for them to do this job, and make sure they have are mandated, but then also listen to them when they bring you great talent. And I think this is also an opportunity for white allies within the agencies, because the majority of people who answered the survey identified as white or were white presenting based on what they told us. Huh. But what they want to see change about the industry is diversity and inclusion. And so if you're a white ally in an agency, come with a list of your favorite Black creatives, your favorite creatives of color, and advocate for them for getting interviews and for getting hired. And it might be right now, people probably aren't going to make full-time hires in the near future because we don't know if there's going to be a second wave or all that. So freelance people, bring them in and give them a chance. And it's on us to do it. And I think there's white privilege also very often comes with white invincibility, and that can be wielded very negatively, but I think it can also be wielded powerfully, where if I speak out in a room and I call bullshit on something, or I call my leadership out for not doing enough, I'm just going to be the asshole that was right. But if someone of color did that, they could be the angry Black woman or the angry Black man. And it's not up to the people of color in our industry to change this. They've been fighting this for far too long, and it's up to us to step up.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. Yeah, in terms of what allies can do. Because I know, from other people I talk to who are maybe white dudes, they feel it's a very difficult place. What can I do without, looking like a jerk or making a misstep?
Look like a jerk. Look like a jerk. Say it. And because if you say it, then someone else will have the courage to say it. I remember when I was 22, 23 years old at Ogilvy, it was my first job in the industry. We were in a briefing with 30 or 40 people, including all the higher ups at Ogilvy. And it was for Sprite. And they were talking about some ideas and using all of this coded language. And it just kept saying it. And I said, excuse me, are you trying to say it's not impoverished enough? And they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, I think you're trying to say that. And yeah, I could have gotten fired immediately, but you got to do that. You got to do what's right. And I think that I don't know who said the quote, but it was a great quote. It's not a principle until it costs you money. And so you really got to stand up for what's right. And if you're afraid of losing your job, part of the thing is like, I've never been afraid of losing a job because as a white guy, I feel like I'll always find another job, which is, not right. But it gives me the fight to be able to fight the fight without putting, and I might lose my job, it's okay, but without putting other people at risk and have them have to advocate for themselves. We can advocate too, because otherwise nothing's going to change.
Wow, that's pretty amazing and so helpful, I think, to a lot of people out there. And I look forward to seeing the results of the survey. If it's only like 90 or 100 people, and you said the majority were white, I would love to see more creatives of color respond to that and get a broader picture of what's really happening. So make sure to send that to us.
Yes, I will. And there's organizations already doing this great work. It's not that hard. Like 4As do amazing work of showcasing people of color. One Club has Here Are All the Black People. Scope of Work is one of my favorite young organizations. Ida and Geneva are doing incredible work bringing 16 to 24-year-olds creatives of color into the creative business. And giving them training and workshops and all of that. And so we need to do that. The creativity is the jobs of the future. Like they're talking about automation and 800 million jobs being automated by 2030. The jobs that are going to still exist are ours, and it's on us as an industry to ensure that we have a creative future. So we have to help kids in school. Like most of my friends who were, predominantly white guys didn't even know we could do this as a career. So how do you expect kids who grew up in immigrant families who are telling them to go in, to have more traditional careers, or, growing up in communities of color, you don't know you can do this. And so we need to go down and tell them, hey, you can make $200,000 a year as an illustrator. You can do this. You can take the thing that makes you uniquely you as a creative and bring it to life and get paid very well to do it.
Yeah, that's similar to what Calmatic said yesterday at our directors roundtable. Like I'm not the only dude here. There's 40 people as talented as me out there that you don't know about. So, everybody has to work harder to look harder for the talent and continue to support. So thank you so much. Everybody check out workingnotworking.com. And we look forward to the final results of the survey. And is there an email people can reach out to you to?
Just Justin at workingnotworking.com. And if you can't find people of color and creatives of color, just hit me up. We will help you. They are out there. We'll help you find them.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann.
Thanks. And everybody make sure to check back in at 3 p.m. Eastern time, where we're going to have a diversity and inclusion roundtable led by Ishan, and Alexandra Jardine will also talk to MasterCard and McCann about an amazing project that you can't miss. So see you guys soon.